The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Monday, the 29th of July, 2024, and we are on to program number 1220 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, of course, in addition to radio on 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website. It's rcistlucia.com. We are also streaming live on Facebook, and you just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. And please be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. The number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, that is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you also have that option of WhatsApp. That number is 724-0008. You can call in or message in on WhatsApp. Again, it is 724-0008. Now, a bit of history for today. In the year 1588, the invincible Spanish Armada was sighted approaching England, and several skirmishes followed, forcing the invading fleet to make a long and costly retreat around the coasts of Scotland and Ireland. In the year 1848, during the Irish potato famine, it witnessed a revolt in the town of Tipperary, and that was an unsuccessful nationalist revolt against British rule, which was put down by the police. In the year 1905, on this day, the United States Secretary of War, William Howard Taft, made a secret agreement with Japanese Prime Minister Katsura, agreeing to Japanese free reign in Korea in return for non-interference with the United States in the Philippines. 1921, on this day, saw Adolf Hitler becoming the leader of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And in 2015, on this day, Zion Harvey became the first pediatric patient to receive a double hand transplant at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought with the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+, with all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to my nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Brazil and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here in the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. And of course, happy Monday to everybody, for those who are back at work. In fact, in the community of Soufrière, they're having their carnival continuing today. And certainly it seems like it was quite a success over the weekend, with a very large turnout for events like the Jouvet, and I think the parade will continue on today. In fact, Soufrière, very interestingly, from what I've seen in terms of any records of carnivals with respect to St. Lucia, and of course, the carnival that we have right now sort of all started in the 1950s, and it was sort of recast. But St. Lucia did have carnivals in the past, and there's actually a reference to a carnival in Soufrière, and it's actually captured in a book which was written by a lady, a St. Lucian from St. Lucian by the name of Celine Foster, who spent quite a number of years working in Geneva, and following which, after actually retiring, she actually wanted to uh, retire to France, to live in France. And somewhere along the way, she had come back home and had met some individuals. I think in particular, I think it was Mr. Winville King, who had actually advised her that her family roots were in France, and she should pursue some, when she goes across there to find out some more. And she in fact did that, and was able to trace some of her family, the Gaillard family, Gaillard de Lobec family, back to France, and to a family residence in the countryside, a chateau. And in that chateau, believe it or not, were actually letters of correspondence between the family in St. Lucia and the family in France at that time. And it captures a very, very interesting snapshot of life in St. Lucia during the 1840s and 1850s. And in those letters, which were being written by the family at that time living on the Ballenbouche estate in Labrie, to their daughter who had migrated to France as a result of marriage. And in writing, there's actually a reference of the mother, who was still in St. Lucia, referencing going to enjoy the carnival in Soufrière, and spending time in Soufrière for the carnival. So it seems that Soufrière Carnival has a very, very long tradition, and perhaps it will be interesting to see how it develops in terms of the product and the community carnivals that certainly are having a life of their own, and providing a different experience for lots of people who may not necessarily want to be able to participate in the national carnival, the Castries Carnival, for a lot of different reasons. And one of the major ones we're seeing right now in terms is, of course, the price point of participating in a carnival band. That has gone up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And once upon a time, maybe about less than 20 years ago, one would have been perhaps even scoffing at the idea of spending more than $500 on a carnival costume and jumping in a carnival band, playing mass. And now, of course, the figures that you're talking about are fivefold and sixfold beyond that. So certainly, it has become a point where, of course, the market is certainly pitched more towards revelers overseas and individuals all around the world who enjoy this. Many people, of course, in the diaspora participated in this year's carnival, and of course, the nature of it is that they're finding friends who are also in their circles finding new markets, and that's the wonder of the world right now, and in particular the Afro, the I guess you could call it the Afro identity, or the Afro market, the black market around the world now is certainly leading to lots of interest in Carnival, coming from not just people from the Caribbean, but African Americans in the United States of America, or individuals who Africans from Africa itself, of course. They also are seeing great interest in that, and no doubt the popularizing of it through social media influencers like that of Cora Obidi, that has caused quite a lot of a stir and interest. And indeed, what a powerful brand ambassador that she has become for the St. Lucia Carnival. And of course, I think even a whole song um, behind her now, and she's certainly taken to a great liking for that. And of course, that presents new opportunities for people of maybe Nigerian descent or living in the United States or living in other parts of the world to be getting more interested and wondering about Carnival, and of course Carnival right here in St. Lucia. So certainly that all goes well for the brand and the growth of the event, and trying to ensure that we can create a definite market for this, because of course importantly the spend is really important, and the festival does bring in quite a number of people. According to what we were told, somewhere in the region of 18,000 visitors during that period, I suppose the 2 week period when we were witnessing Carnival here in St. Lucia. As the numbers show for the year thus far, I think we have from the St. Lucia Tourism Authority's research department. They, on a monthly basis, provide updates, and they've gotten to the month up to the month of June 2024, and certainly it appears that we have been seeing month after month after month another record-breaking month, sorry, in terms of stay-over arrivals for St. Lucia. So just quickly to give you a sense of what the figures have been looking like in terms of stay-over arrivals, in January of 2024, we saw 36,863 stay-over arrivals for that month. Now, the best year before that was 2019, I believe. And so when you go back to 2019, which was that year where we which was a record year, that was the highest year before, of course, COVID, and before anything had changed. That is the base year which we want to compare to. And so that was over, in fact, in January 2019, it was 34,546. In February 2019, we're talking about 38,166. And in February 2024, 38,837. So a slight increase there, of about 700 or so more people when we compare those 2 months. March 2019, 41,674. And when you look at March 2024, a pretty large increase, 44,561, nearly 3,000 more in the month of March. April 2019, 36,828. And when you look at April 2024, 37,588. So again, nearly 1,000 more compared to 2019. May of 2019, which is of course that month where you have the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival, 34,354 back in 2019. There was no jazz that year, I don't believe, at that time. And of course, in 2024, the figure 36,375, which was effectively 2,000 more than the 2019 year. And in June 2019, 34,040. And when you compare it with June this year, 38,394. So over 4,000 more individuals coming in for the month of June 2024. We still haven't gotten the official figures as yet, as I said, for July, but it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. And when you look at the where those individuals are coming from, well, the significant growth since 2019 continues to be from the U.S. market compared to for the year thus far. For the month of June, if you want to compare those figures to 2019, about 6,700 more. About 6,400 more visitors came in from the United States. The UK has not yet quite gotten back to its 2019 level. It's just a little under by about 300 or so individuals. Uh, in the case of the Caribbean, also not as back as yet to the 2019 figures. Back in 2019, the Caribbean had about 6,100 people coming in from the month of June, and 2024 June is about 3,582 persons. So you can see a significant way to go in terms of recovery in the Caribbean market, and that, of course, speaks to major issues still with respect to airlift not being where it was back in 2019 with the loss of Liat and lots of other struggling situations. And of course, the cost of the tickets as well has also been prohibitive for this issue. Now, Canada has in fact exceeded its 2019 figures, according to that data from the St. Lucia Tourism Authority. And of course, it looks at some others like the rest of the world, when that has actually gone up fourfold, but it's a very small percentage of the overall number of persons coming in. So, but that major growth is really still the U.S. market driving that increase. In terms of cruise, and of course in the harbor, if you're looking, you would have seen a Disney vessel in the port at Point Seraphim. That is in fact making its inaugural visit to St. Lucia, and it's being touted as one of the, I suppose, the wins for GPH thus far. It's one of the first new vessels coming in to port. Thus far, cruise, in terms of the numbers for the year, not quite yet surpassing the 2019 figures. In 2019, up from January to June, that was about 464,000 visitors for that 6-month period. But for 2024, about 10,000 shy of that, 454,603 cruise passengers for the year. Very good months of February and March, but then in terms of April, May, and June, that had fallen flat pretty quickly. And I think one of the major reasons for that, of course, we would have tended to see the carnival in those periods, those off-peak periods, and of course they have not been back as yet. So we've seen some drops in the off-peak periods, but very, very good peak months for cruise. And yachting, still a little ways to go to get back to their 2019 peak. And I think in yachting, 17,000 or so individuals came by yacht in 2019 for the period, the first half of the year. And for the first half of this year, it's about 14,000. So still a ways to go in terms of full recovery in the yachting sector. So that's a general idea as to where things are in terms of numbers, in terms of stay-over arrivals. Of course, that is but one metric that is used quite a bit to look at the potential impact. Of course, in terms of the dollar value, that is going to tends to be determined more by sampling and looking at surveys that are done and to get a sense as to how much is actually spent. Of course, the people over at the Research and Policy Department and Ministry of Finance will also be looking at imports and to try to get a keen sense as to what is the economic impact of a lot of these individuals who are coming in, and looking at what else they are buying, local produce as well, to get a good sense of the economic impact. But we don't have that data as yet. The other thing, of course, that is looked at sometimes is the average length of stay. And of course, the assumption is there that every day you spend means that you spend more, and on average. And so of course that is also another important figure. Generally speaking, we've seen that the average length of a vacation has actually come down by a little under a day since 2019. And of course, these things will fluctuate, but it also may very well be where we actually are seeing more visitors coming from. So, because you're seeing more US visitors, and they tend to have a much shorter stay. For example, a US visitor in 2019 stayed about 6.9 days on island. Right now they stay a little less, 6.6. But the UK, where we're seeing they've pretty much have been at about 10 days on average. UK visitor comes across, it's a longer journey. They want to spend a little longer. They, of course, they also get more time off, and so they tend to spend a little longer. And so the 10 days is in fact the average there for a UK visitor. But because we have not quite seen a complete rebound in terms of the UK market, that would of course bring down the average, the total average length of stay by somewhat. And so in 2019, average length of stay for a visitor was 8.2 days thus far for the month, for the year, sorry. And in 2024, it's now 7.5. So just a bit of a indicator as to where and how long people are staying, where they're staying. Of course, is another area that is looked at by the St. Lucia Tourism Authority. They collect data on that as well, and to give you a sense, I mean, as it is of now, it would appear that the vast majority of people still stay in hotels, and other accommodation is in fact the second highest, followed by apartments and villas, followed by guest houses. And so, of course, the hotel sector is still very important for them in terms of the overall spread. As to how that is looking at in compared to different years, we don't have that data available. Of course, with the rise of things like Airbnb, no doubt there will be perhaps far more people staying in Airbnb for part of the time. A lot of people are breaking up their vacation between a hotel for a couple of nights and Airbnb for other parts of the trip. So you're getting a lot more variety now in terms of options that are available to travelers. And so, of course, even though we are seeing continued investment in hotels and in hotel accommodation, we're also seeing a fair bit of interest in things like villas and Airbnb properties and what have you. Now, that's all the time we have, because we actually do need to go across to taking our weather report at this time. So we're going to end our dish of the day.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Boss, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Road in Castries, Bosses Grizzlies, and Flag Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new in living color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our island style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
So of course, the 1.1 is now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island South Island Bar. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours, winds will be blowing from the east and near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. The weather fair skies becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers. The forecast for the Los Antilles over the southern windward. Over the southern Windward Islands and areas further south, partly cloudy to cloudy with some scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Elsewhere, fair skies becoming cloudy at times with widely scattered showers. And the tropical weather outlook, a low-level trough located just east of the southern Windward Islands will cause some scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms over the southern portion of the region during the next 24 hours. The Atlantic high pressure system will generate moderate easterly winds across the Les Antilles during the next couple of days. Patches of low-level clouds drifting along the wind flow will cause few showers over the remainder of the region during the forecast period. A tropical wave associated with an area of disturbed weather is located over the central tropical Atlantic. This system is moving westward near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour. And some development is possible as it approaches the Les Antilles by midweek. Another tropical wave located over the eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island South Island Bar.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new in living color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our island style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to our program today. And of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate, you can do just that. Our number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also message in on our WhatsApp number, that is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. And just a little while ago, I think there was actually the Emancipation Lecture that was part of Emancipation Day celebrations here in St. Lucia. And the lecturer was Dr. Morgan Dalfinis. And he, of course, is St. Lucian born academic. And he focused his lecture on his area of interest, which has been that of language, and he looked at the matter of the importance of uncover St. Lucian Creole, uncovering history, heritage, resistance, and identity rooted in language. And Dr. Dalfinis has, of course, written on this matter. He studied it considerably, spent time in Africa. He has looked at the similarities between um, Creole and or what we call Creole and African languages, and of course, it's one of the things that we keep on saying. I mean, you still hear people, unfortunately, describing Creole as a broken French, or using these types of terms, and as it has perhaps been best explained, what it is really is in terms of its structure. In fact, it has the form of an African language in terms of the syntax, but uh, the lexicon, the words that are utilized are French words or French sounding words, and so that is where you get a lot of the association, of course, when it is said that we use a French Creole, but the form, the structure of the language has in fact been pointed out to be more of an African language than anything else. So, of course, that was the focus on the lecture, and no doubt I think it will be available on GIS and the Government Information Service and NTN, or of course online as well. Now, interesting enough, I think in just a bit as well, the President of the United States of America is also going to be addressing the country on the matter of the 60th anniversary of the proclamation of the Civil Rights Act. And that was, of course, done back in 1964 after a fair amount of protest action, marches on Washington, issues of lynching, and lots and lots of effort by organizations like the NAACP and many other civil activists, civil rights activists, such as Dr. Martin Luther King, for instance, and many, many others who fought. Rosa Parks, of course, who refused to give up her seat on the bus, and of course, it certainly is interesting that just 60 years ago, the United States was effectively a segregated country, and there were still areas that were could be used only by whites and of course persons of color, as they were termed, could not enjoy going to particular schools. They could not enjoy um, going to the same cinemas, living in the same neighborhoods, and this was just 60 years ago. Believe it or not, it is fairly fair to say that it was actually within this somewhat modern era. And in fact, I think we do have a clip of from the archives of then President Lyndon Baines Johnson addressing the country on the signing of the Civil Rights Act. So I think it'd be interesting to just take a listen, to have a look back in history and what was said back in 1964. And that was then President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson, back in 1964 on that 60th. Well, it's not the 60th anniversary, of course, 6 years ago, signing into law in the United States, well, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Not the first Civil Rights Act, of course, there were others in the past, even in the post Civil War period. But of course, we saw tremendous, extensive segregation beyond that period of the Civil War, which of course gave every American the right to vote, but still the condition of life was still very much oppressed based on color. And this was in nearly every single aspect of life. Of course, we mentioned things like schools very famously, but in areas of commerce and where one could go, and of course, as we mentioned, in public transport, uh, in in housing, in economic policy. For instance, back in the 1930s during the Great Depression, when there was this great big push by then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to bring forward what is known as a New Deal, which is kind of like a massive infrastructure spending plan. And things like new housing was being proposed. And the reality was that, of course, um, even though there were loans now, low interest mortgages being made available to many people around the United States, these were not for black families. They were, in fact, denied of getting the benefits of these types of these packages, and they were effectively like a redlining of areas. There were certain areas where um, persons could and could not get funding, and so it certainly led to tremendous disparities in terms of wealth, or maintained the disparities that existed in terms of wealth, and made them even worse. Now, let's take a call at this time to just have a broaden the conversation as we head to the phone lines. Hopefully, we've got our phone lines back working. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello, good afternoon. Okay, it looks like we still have some technical issues with our line, which hopefully we should be going to try to see if we can get that sorted out. But as I was mentioning, of course, uh, in fact, in some instances, even when later on, when you saw massive investment the transport, in the transport sector, the U.S. went through this phase, of course, after World War II, where they actually invested quite a lot in new interstate highways, and of course, this was the car era, wanting to have ensuring that everybody had a car in their yard in the 1950s, and of course, where would those highways pass? In very many areas, of course, in the United States, these highways went straight through these cities, and they were quite often carefully the alignment of these roads were done in such a way that they went in through African American neighborhoods, and quite a number of these neighborhoods were cleared out, and the land, of course, was well, expropriated or acquired through eminent domain, so that they could, in fact, push these highways straight through these cities, and so certainly there were a lot of efforts, both explicitly as well as implicitly by the state, which in fact had a deleterious impact on the condition of African Americans for decade after decade after decade. And so, of course, by the 1950s, with the civil rights movement coming on stream, it really was a response to uh, what was clearly a system of segregation and discrimination and disenfranchisement of African Americans. And so this act of 1964 certainly was this sort of major watershed moment towards shifting, towards this new reality. Now, of course, we have seen since then an African American become the president of the United States, and that has been seen as a significant achievement in terms of um, the United States. But of course, we're seeing how divided this country is, and of course, it'll be very interesting to see whether in the 60th year since this Civil Rights Act, whether in fact an African American or Black woman can in fact become the president of the United States of America. Of course, part of the Civil Rights Act was also, to some degree, also dealing with women and the rights of women, because those were also, in many ways, impacted by certain laws. So, and the issue of discrimination. So, it is certainly a really interesting time for the United States of America to see what comes out, of course, of this moment where it is in fact now being placed within this other very interesting question. Ironically, of course, back in the very early period, it was in the more progressive party was in fact the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party of the South in particular was the one that was regressive. And of course, we've seen that this has come full circle in many ways to when you look at the current platform of many of these countries. And we're seeing, of course, some elements, ultra conservative elements, even pushing agendas like Project 25 and this manifesto, which effectively is calling for the rollback of lots of freedom, so to speak, in the United States. And mind you, of course, it's a call to leadership, as they've called it, and by this Heritage Foundation that wants to push, of course, for the re-election of Donald Trump, and of course they are using lots of particular groups of interest to want to try to gain support, and so of course, in particular, focusing on churches and trying to get the Christian vote out. In fact, we even heard some interesting comments coming from Donald Trump recently about telling Christians that they don't have to vote again after this. And I suppose it suggested maybe he's going to do all that he's got to do. And it really is very unclear as to how a lot of these issues will pan out. Of course, interestingly, is that a lot of them, when you think about perhaps the St. Lucian context, many of the things that they actually are promoting, maybe you may even find some level of resonance right here in terms of what the average St. Lucian holds in terms of certain issues of values, right? But of course, it has galvanized a lot of support for Donald Trump, which is why, of course, he has been doing so very well in the polls. But on the other end of it, it's coming with a lot of other baggage that perhaps one would not want to see, things like cutting back on Medicare and suggesting that you would not need a Department of Education and lots of other things. But we're going to have to perhaps try to unpack some more of that in the week to come, but we're out of time. Hopefully, as well, we'll be able to sort out our phone lines. Our apologies for the individuals I know who are trying to call in. The problem is with us. We need to sort that out. We hopefully will get that done soon enough. But we do hope that you have a very blessed Monday. I'm your host, Alex George Jr., saying goodbye.